Harry Potter, the series which is being shot in the UK at the moment, is said to be building a school for its cast. Is that the case? And also, Dune Messiah will be shooting entirely on IMAX cameras, of which some are saying that it's a cinematic history perhaps never been done before. But last and not the least is how poised is Africa's, film future after the SICA event held in Abidjan just a couple of weeks ago. These and more right here on the Film Mandate. My name is Papa Otu. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome back once again to another episode of the Film Mandate, where I bring to you movie news, reviews, and reactions both from the African front and the international scene. So, beginning today's stories, we're going to start way from UK once again. So, if you were watching my episode yesterday, I spoke about how Harry Potter has begun shooting, and then they released an image of the lead actor Dominic, who was cladded in. Let me bring up the picture here again. Who was cladded in the Harry Potter iconic look from the school, and that is him in your shot. So that's Dominic, the new lead actor for the Harry Potter franchise this time around series. And so I brought up the news concerning this particular development, of which they've begun shooting officially about 2 days ago. But beyond that, there's something interesting happening where the production of the Harry Potter has also uh, they've gone on to the extent of wanting to build a real school, not a school, a fictional school for the production, but a real school for its cast. Looking at the fact that the cast consists of a lot of children or young ones or actors who are still in school, and this is indeed an interesting development. So, captured in the BBC and written by Danny Fulbrook, BBC News, Hertfordshire. I hope I pronounced the name right. So it says that the studio where the new Harry Potter television reboot is being filmed has been granted permission to build a temporary school for the child actors to study in for real. It might not have the grandeur of Hogwarts, but Warner Brothers Studios Leversden, near Watford, has been told by the Three Rivers District Council it could use a series of portable buildings as a school facility for the next decade. The proposed classrooms have been designed to be used by up to 600 pupils during peak periods when large crowd scenes are shot, but will typically serve about 150 students. It will operate on weekdays between 5:30 and 20:30, so young actors can fit in their actual studies between night shoots, reshoots, and location filming. Yeah, so the application is partly retrospective, suggesting some aspects of the plans had already begun. The school planning documents do not specifically mention Harry Potter, but instead a significant new TV series which will base itself at the studio for the next 8 to 10 years. In the proposals, it was specified that the school infrastructure will be in place for a maximum period of 10 years. It was announced on Monday that filming on the new series had begun in Livingston. According to HBO, 32,000 children auditioned for the lead roles following an open casting call in September. So that is the news item or the story for you. And indeed, I must say this is a very laudable initiative by Warner Brothers to ensure that during this period of production, the children get the education they need and not abandon their studies. And for those who may not know, the production of Harry Potter will take place of over a period of 10 years. So we are looking at somewhere 2034, 2035 to wrap up the entire series. And for these reasons, that's why they are taking the initiative to build a school. And I think it does make sense looking at the fact that these series are quite intense when it comes to shooting. And unlike a film, which even films also take, chunk of time, like 4 months, even or 3 months, just being on production. That's an for 3 to 4 months, you're looking at an entire semester. So it does make sense that if you're going to be shooting, these series for 10 years, I don't know how many seasons, per year, or per how many number of years, it does make sense that they would want to, build a real school certified by the necessary government to ensure that the children who are starring in these films, including the lead actors, get a needed, what's it called, the needed education, so that they do not, they do not destroy that, uh, what they've achieved so far in school. So it does make sense that this is what they would embark on, and it speaks to the fact that corporations or businesses, indeed, like what Warner Brothers is doing, do really care about these child actors, and it's indeed a laudable venture for them to do this. And I'm glad that the UK government and the council within that region or district are indeed um, supporting this, making this a reality for the individuals, for the students, or for the young cast to receive the needed education without abandoning it. So indeed, it is a reasonable venture that you're embarking on, and I don't know. I'm excited about this because then the parents themselves wouldn't be worried as to having their children spend majority of their time shooting without receiving the necessary education. So indeed, kudos to Warner Brothers and the city council and all those the stakeholders who are making this a possibility. So yeah, I'm excited about this. I don't know about you, but at least it means that the corporations or studios do really care not just about their productions, but also the future of the children whom we'll be loving and watching on screen. And when some of them grow and decide not to be act anymore, at least they still have the foundation of their education on which to build their careers on. So indeed, it is a laudable venture initiative, and I would like to say, kudos to them, kudos to all the parties involved making this a possibility. So let me know your thoughts on this. What do you think of this initiative taken by Warner Brothers to ensure that their young cast are educated whilst they are shooting these films that would entertain us by ensuring that the future of the young cast are also secure? Leave your thoughts in the comment section down below. So moving on to the second story, Dune Messiah has begun production. I think they have actually. Yeah, and what is said is that it is going to be the one of the films to be shot on IMAX. Not to say that the previous films weren't shot on IMAX, but let's go to this article written on the movie blog, and it says that yeah, so it says that Dune Messiah to make cinematic history with IMAX camera shoot. Let's read the article briefly. And it says that Dune Messiah Denis Villeneuve's IMAX film sequel will make cinematic history. Denis Villeneuve's highly anticipated sequel, Dune Messiah, is set to make cinematic history by becoming the first film fully shot on the new generation of IMAX film cameras. This breakthrough marks a milestone for both the director and IMAX technology itself. Following years of development driven by visionary directors like Christopher Nolan, IMAX has now delivered quieter, lighter, and more efficient cameras capable of shooting entire feature films in full frame 1.43 to 1 aspect ratio, IMAX aspect ratio. So the future of IMAX film technology. In an interview with IMAX CEO Bob Gelfond, it was confirmed that the updated cameras resolve many of the issues filmmakers faced with earlier IMAX rigs. The new cameras reduce noise levels by 30% and are constructed with carbon fiber for improved handling during lengthy shoots. Sync sound, clearer on-set dialogue, and real-time dailies are now possible, making these cameras more practical than ever for large-scale productions. Let's read this. A cinematic first for Dune Messiah. Dune Messiah will leverage this cutting-edge technology following in the footsteps of Christopher Nolan's upcoming epic, The Odyssey, which will also be shot entirely using IMAX film. Both films will project every scene in the immersive 1.43 to 1 aspect ratio. If theaters are equipped to handle it, potentially reviving the industry's interest in 70mm projection in premium venues worldwide. Villeneuve's decision to shoot the entire film in IMAX reflects his dedication to delivering an unparalleled visual experience. Fans of the franchise can expect stunning vistas of Arrakis like never before, captured with unprecedented clarity and scale. Why IMAX film technology matters. While digital filmmaking has become the industry standard, IMAX's commitment to analog film remains strong. The visual fidelity, resolution, and depth offered by IMAX film far surpass digital alternatives. The collaboration between filmmakers like Villeneuve and IMAX engineers has pushed the technology to a level that allows full-length IMAX features to become a reality. So, Dune Messiah is currently in production and is suspected to release in late 2026. Its success could set a new standard for blockbuster filmmaking, pushing more directors to adopt IMAX film cameras for future epic projects. So there you have it. The Dune Messiah is currently shooting, and just as I said, this will be a cinematic first for Dune Messiah or for film as a whole, as Dune Messiah is using the new generation of IMAX film cameras that have been currently, outdoored by IMAX. And the advantage, just as they said, actually has been stated in the article that it is 30% quieter, and now sound can be synced to the visual so that you can preview and not just that, but they've done other improvements to the camera to make sure that you can view the dailies right after shooting it, unlike the first one where you can't do so because you would have to go and sync the sound together with the film strips and with the visuals just to get the complete visual to assess. So this indeed shows how dedicated IMAX is. You know, there are IMAX certified film cameras and there are IMAX cameras, and that is what the article stated, that for the IMAX, I mean, the challenge with the IMAX cameras is that they are very bulky and they are quite loud in terms of the mechanics that goes in within that square body of the camera, making it literally impossible to have sound recorded directly onto the 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 film or onto the camera, because then you would not be able to actually, it means that the noise of the camera itself will prevent quality or clear sound to be captured. So with this now being 30% quieter, now they've been able to achieve or make it possible to sync sound together with the visual so that the daily assessment of the footage can be possible. And I think this is a step in the right direction, considering that IMAX cameras or IMAX certified film cameras are the premium de la creme of cameras. When we are talking about the the best of the best cameras, the very lineup of cameras, IMAX cameras are perhaps at the pinnacle of all other film cameras. So it does make sense that they would want to always improve it to make the laborious handling of the camera more, reduced, make it very easy to handle by the cameraman, make it very fast to be able to review your dailies without having, wait for a period of time for it to be synced before the director, producers get the opportunity to review what they've shot. So indeed, it is a step in the right direction and a very great feat for the IMAX company to have done that. And going forward, once it works out very well for the Dune Messiah, which is one of the hotly, most anticipated film in 2026. The Odyssey is also one of the most anticipated films, and both of these films are being shot on a scale to heighten the audience's experience when they sit in the cinemas to watch them. So it is indeed a step in the right direction. And these films actually, the way they are being shot and the way that the story is with all those spectacle are stories to experience in the cinema. Some may even say that experience in the IMAX cinemas, not just the ordinary cinemas, but the IMAX cinemas. Unfortunately, I have not had the experience to watch any film in the IMAX cinemas. But even the little I can speak of when watching films in an ordinary cinema, you realize that yes, films with such grandeur and spectacles like Dune, Superman, Avatar, Christopher Nolan films, Quentin Tarantino films, all ought to be experienced in the cinema to have that feel of that experience that you can never recapture or capture just watching it on a normal TV screen or a phone screen. And so for IMAX to be pioneering this technology is a step in the right direction. I mean, arguably so. Not all films can actually shoot IMAX because of the high costs involved in renting of the cameras and the other accessories and the team to make that possible. But at least for these studio giant poles or giant tent poles of films, they can actually shoot this on the IMAX cameras for us to have an experience and a taste of it. Maybe as time goes forward, then the cost involved sort of reduces. A lot of independent producers and filmmakers may get on board and use these cameras for us to experience it. But then I'm excited about this because if you ever watch Dune, you know that Dune is such a film that ought to be experienced in the cinemas. And it is indeed exciting that IMAX has pioneered this new technology that would help make the work very, very easy to do with this new generation of cameras. So I'm excited, and honestly, I've never been excited for films of this nature like that, especially considering how Denis Villeneuve was able to capture such spectacular visuals. One of the exciting thing I realize about Danish films is that regardless of how fantasy of a realm the source material may be, even whether from the script stage or from a book or from an idea, like Nolan, he has the ability to ground it in a pseudo reality that feels like this could exist in our real world. If one of the films that I like so much Denis Villeneuve's film is Arrival, which stars Jeremy Renner, Rachel McAdams. No, why am I blanking on a name? Oh, that's so sad. But yeah, the lady who acted Lois Lane in Henry Cavill's Superman. I'm not sure it's Rachel McAdams, but anyway, I'll try and get a name. But also starring Forest Whitaker. They all, the film, even though it's an alien invasion film, the way and manner it was captured, it was so beautifully done. Tell, um, you could literally feel like this can be experienced in the real world. And let me see if I can get a name. So just a minute. So you can literally, um, it literally feels that this can take place in our real world. So for sorry, Amy Adams. I was combining two names, so pardon me. It's actually Amy Adams, not Rachel McAdams. Amy Adams. So you could literally feel that this can exist in the real world, and with the technology that they've developed with the IMAX cameras, even the old ones, it literally makes you, whenever you watch it, it catapults you into the story, and you feel the impact of the film itself. So I'm excited about this technology, and when it's finally done and about to release in cinemas, perhaps even beginning with the Odyssey, we would indeed see the reason why it is, game changing to use IMAX cameras to shoot your film. So yeah, this is my second story. Let me know your thoughts on this. What do you think of this new generation, quieter, the sound synced, and being able to review the footage of these new IMAX cameras that have been made? What do you think of this cameras that have been made, and why this is indeed a cinematic, history, particularly for the Dune Messiah film that is being shot? So leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Now, to my last but not the least of articles, just a couple of days ago, maybe barely 2 weeks ago, Abidjan or Ivory Coast had a major event called the SICA, and they earmarked or brought about a plan to make Ivory Coast the film hub of Africa. And an article which has been published in Variety sort of highlighted some of the reasons why they think now these Africa is sort of poised for a very fruitful cinematic future. So let's read what the article says. What Abidjan SICA market said about the future for African film and TV. So let me just go straight. So I mean, just for you to know, so what the SICA stands for is the International Saloon for Audiovisual Content, and this is the third edition. And this article was published on the 4th anyway, so it may not, yeah. Okay, let me just read from a little bit from here. It says that whether in the form of Ivorian telenovelas, ancestral epics, or unscripted reality shows, African audiences are making their preferences clear. They want to see themselves. Generations of Africans have grown up with stories, characters, and themes that they don't recognize themselves in, said Kimberly Azria, producer and managing director at the LA and Abidjan based Abi Media. That's changing now, and it's a relief. So, one of the main reasons, or one of the main highlights, is that local content, local storytelling is driving demand. And this can be seen literally from the social media content that abounds, now on the internet. And you realize that a lot of Africans prefer to see themselves, even literally themselves, on screen. And you realize that a number of even the YouTube films that are being made now, if you check some of the viewership, it is amazing. And that is what you realize. I mean, back then, because there weren't much alternatives, it's always felt that Africans would always want to watch foreign films, which we still do actually, we still do. But then it felt as if when you create when in filmmakers create content for their own people, there will be much preference of a foreign film over the local ones. Yes, if it is not shot well, don't expect people to watch it. But ideally, if it is done well, definitely people will go and watch it. And this event highlighted that. So let's see what. So Azria traced the turning point to Nollywood's rise for Mamane, the Nigerian-born actor, filmmaker, and producer behind Bienvenue au Gondwana. I hope I pronounce it right. The need goes deeper. It says that it's not easy to say, This is an African film. The audience wants quality. Africans know what a good film looks like. They've been watching French, American, and Bollywood films forever. If you want us to watch African films, they need to be good. So that is where the emphasis ought to be in. You can't just come and show just any film. It ought to be quality enough for the audiences to rally behind it. So that is one good noticeable thing that SICA was able to capture. So let's go ahead and see what the next point is. It says that Pan African collaboration isn't just talk anymore. Yes, a couple of episodes ago, I did a story of how even Nollywood with their BRS studio was, even though it's a Nollywood production, or would I say a Nollywood production, an African production, they brought on board Shelefim Manso from Ghana to Nigeria to shoot a project. So you realize that there's a lot of collaboration going on, not just that, but among other studios and film companies and even um, the other film agencies. The individuals are no more looking at films to sell within their country alone, because the markets for individual countries, just as I've been drumming over a couple of episodes, are insignificant compared to what you can achieve with the whole. Looking at the fact that Africa is the second most populous country, continent in the world, that the market is important, not just individual markets, but the continental market is of prime importance. So it is not just talk anymore. So cross border cooperation is no longer theoretical. It's happening in production deals, training programs, and co-financing conversations. We are seeing producers from Senegal, Nigeria, Ivory Coast, and beyond begin to work together seriously, said Azria. It's no longer Pan-Africanism as a slogan, it's Pan-Africanism as a business model. So you realize that that is what the filmmakers on the continent have realized. That is what we are yearning for. Even with the well-established film industries, they are still doing co-productions, and that is helping the reach of their films into certain markets that ordinarily wouldn't have happened. So it is of prime importance that we forget just being individualistic and focus on being, a unified whole as a continent, unites not just productions, but the market especially, to see our values worth. So yeah, it is indeed. Let's see what one Ivorian producer said about this. So he says that Ivorian producer Charlie Kojo Ebinto puts it bluntly: Europe has experience, but they should come to co-create, not to help. I prefer to ban the word aid from my vocabulary. Collaboration is the future. And yeah, so that is what seems to be on the lips of everyone now. But then for us to talk about co-production, we need to be poised and positioned properly, so that when these um, other Western companies or countries wants to collaborate with us, we will be at a position to leverage properly. Without a strong film industry, whether individual countries or continental wide, there is no way we can really have that leverage to do a proper collaboration with them. So I think we need to really focus on harnessing our growth and harnessing, making sure that all the agencies are working properly, so that with or without any other industry of the world, we can thrive. That is the challenge we have. It looks like without most like external help, thriving as an industry in terms of box office revenue has always been a challenge, and we need to learn how to even. I think the focus should not even be on collaborating with the West or the East. The focus should be on collaborating even within countries first, and then collaborate intra countries, that's African countries with another African country, until we get it right among ourselves. Collaborating with the West or East is of no use. We need to learn to collaborate well with ourselves, build the structures, build the all the agencies and the institutions necessary to help propel a very thriving, successful film industry. Until we do that, I think even collaborating with the West or East is, yes, they will bring in the money and perhaps some technical, advice and everything to make it, to help improve our game. But until we orient ourselves that we need to work on ourselves better and first, not just among within countries, but also among African countries, I think that working with external or from the West and East, even though laudable, is not the best way to go. Let's work on ourselves, solve the problems we have. We can't solve it all, but once we can get it right, get the model right, get the structures right, working with the West is just going to be a breeze. So that's something we need to look at. Let me quickly go to the other points that was made. The financial models are evolving slowly but surely, and that has been a challenge in Africa. um, the challenge is there never seems to be enough financing to go around to help these productions, not just for film productions itself, but we also to help put the necessary infrastructure to make that a possibility. So these are things that ought to really be considered. And then let me see. I think there's one more. Okay, so let me just check the last point under the financing says that Kojo, whose debut feature Ebinto was financed 90% locally, credited alignment and persistence. We had a vision and people believed in it, from the technicians and the government, the companies. When we were finished, we were nearly bankrupt, but we made it happen. So that is a big challenge in Africa where when you actually do finance a film and it's of high production value, which definitely would equate to involving such huge sums of money, most often this is likely to happen to a company, and that shouldn't be the case. So the necessary infrastructures and the institutions that ought to be established. Even banks need to also consider, or investment companies need to consider investing in films. But the challenge has always been that we don't have a thriving market to ensure that when these investments are made in films, the investment can be recouped. And that has been the challenge. That has been a challenge. I think last but not the least, if I'm okay, no, so there are two more points here. Let me quickly run through them. So talent development in the industries is the industry's bedrock. Talent training emerge as a recurring priority across all levels of the industry, not just for writers and directors, but for crew technicians and support roles that form the foundation of any film economy. You need to train everyone, said Mamane. Actors, cameramen, lighting technicians, sound engineers, decorators, makeup artists, costume designers. These are real jobs. Cinema is not a pastime, it's an economy. I like that statement. It's not a pastime, it's an economy. So it points to the fact that we need to uplift our game. Just as I said before, if we are not poised well, if our systems are not working well, if our talents are not top notch, to we will not have the necessary leverage to work with companies from all over the world. And we need to have that leverage where, particularly with our market, to make sure that we have a bargaining chip. If we don't have a bargaining chip, collaborating would always be at a disadvantage to us, not an advantage. And talents are what's going to make this possible. There's a lot more in this article. I don't think I can cover all. But the last point here was that out of the SICA event, Ivory Coast seems very poised to position itself as the go-to destination for shooting. And I think it is indeed good. They should make that happen. They should make that happen. And I'm not choosing Ivory Coast over any other country. But if they are ready to make that a go-to destination shooting point for themselves, that becomes one foundational block out of the 54 countries in Africa that is if they succeed, that has made something formidable that other countries can learn from and also build their own film economies. And I think it's a good lesson that every other country in Africa ought to also pursue so that we can build the necessary building blocks or foundation upon which we can build the continental film economy of Africa, and that ought to be done so. I mean, it's so necessary and ought to be done immediately or with immediacy to ensure that we can have something to boast of. I've always said that the $20 billion that have been projected that Africa is likely to make from I think 2030 and beyond is even just a chip of the just a chip, just a small token compared to what we are capable of doing. So if we can put the structures right, 20 million billion dollars and even 20 million job creation will be just something, just a fraction of what we are capable of doing. So yeah, this wraps up my third story. Let me know what you think about this story, your thoughts on it, what we are capable of doing. What do you think? The Ivory Coast model of SICA, is it something worth emulating by all other African countries to help build or make their countries a go-to destination in Africa? And what do you think about United African Front in terms of the markets? Positioning ourselves as a formidable market compared to Europe and the US. Share your thoughts and views in the comment section down below. And also soon this episode comes to an end with the three stories I just provided. So thank you so much for joining me for this episode, and I'll be coming your way with another episode tomorrow on the Film Mandate. My name is Papa Otu. See you soon.